doing your own due diligence and making sure you hit every point in due diligence, sticking to your budgets. Like you could spend as much money as you want on a single family renovation or a hotel. Like you can spend as much money as you want, but you have to stick to your budget, period.
What's up, everybody? My name's Mike Sjogren here with my co-host,
Emmanuel Pani.
We're part of a group of specialized real estate investors you've probably never heard of.
We didn't start with deep pockets or wealthy families, and we don't rely on 401ks, mutual funds, or traditional real estate investing.
In fact, many of us don't even own the properties that fund our freedom. If you ask the money experts out there, they'd say what we do is impossible, yet it's happening every single day.
It's happening through a new niche called short-term rentals.
We are Short-Term Rental Nation, and these are our secrets. What's going on, STR Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Short-Term Rental Secrets podcast. I am your host, Mike Sjogren, here with my main man and brother from another mother, Mr. Emmanuel Pani. What is up, E?
My brother, so good to see you. I'm so happy to be home. Like I've been on the road since Nashville, and my mental health was quickly just kind of spiraling without my routines and my workouts and holy shit, like I didn't, like I knew, but it was such a good reminder of like just my healthy habits and like why it's something that like we don't have to do, is something that we get to do to then be better, like be healthier.
Yeah.
It got to the point that I came home and I was just like, what the fuck? Like I'm like, just I had no sense of direction. I was just feeling all over the place. So it's just good to be home, close to my espresso machine, so I can have espressos whenever I want. You know, like my gym, like, you know what I mean? It's everything. Like it's super, like it's something that I resisted for the longest time.
Yeah.
But every time I let myself kind of like go back into that, like the routine and that like kind of like the discipline of it all. You know, it's something super maybe counterintuitive in a sense, because you're like, I don't want to just live a disciplined life, but then you also live a better life.
Dude, I struggle on the road. Honestly, the 2 weeks that I was gone in March completely threw me off. The workout plan and the nutrition plan. And now I'm struggling to get back into that groove again. And I've been sick the last week too, all stuff going on in my head and throat and whatever. And it just like, I feel like I lost a month of productivity on like the fitness end. And it sucks, but it is what it is.
Dude, yeah. And like the waking up, like once you fall off the wake up early bandwagon, I'm like, dude, like all I'm asking is to get up at 6. Like we used to get up at like fucking 4. Like
you used to get up at 4, like super.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what I'm saying. Like 6,
5.
6 is a compromise, and my buddy is like, "What do you say? 7:30?" I'm like, "No, bitch. Like let's get up, let's do shit." And I'm like, "Oh my god, this bed feels so good." So it's just like it's so funny. You know what I mean? It's that constant thing of like embracing what is difficult, because that makes things easier.
Yeah.
Right. Overall. So, but yeah, that's my little spiel of like what's I've been up to. It's just grateful to be home. My San Pellegrino, you know, like it's just, you know, it's hard, but like I'm a creature of habit, and like I'm like my mind kind of thrives off of it. So, what about you guys?
Dude, I had a moment of just like massive gratitude the other day. Like I was literally like tearing up, just thinking about like like how much my life has changed in the last 5-6 years is ridiculous. And
yeah,
a guy that I used to work with, I used to run the New England side of the operations. He ran all the New York side. He called me up out of the blue. I hadn't talked to him in like 3 years. Great dude, just amazing guy, super funny. We always had a great relationship. And we were just like reminiscing about stuff and then just catching up. And you know, it's just funny, like he's still doing fine, but like still in the same place. You know what I mean? Like 3 years ago, where I'm like, dude, I'm not even in the same stratosphere as I was 3 years ago, you know, since we last spoke. So it's just, it's interesting how we get caught in these, it's like a comfortability loop, or Napoleon Hill talks about is like, you know, that hypnotic rhythm of like, you're in that Groundhog Day over and over and over again. And it's just interesting, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I heard that it's funny the other day? If you don't make a conscious effort, 85 to 90% of your thoughts are going to be the same day in and day out. And so like, when you think of that, you're like, holy shit. because like you can feel it, right? Like when you let yourself, you go through the same cycles over and over, and that's why it's so important for you to like be the architect of your own life. You know, if you change a couple of those thoughts and you just kind of like do that little half a centimeter kind of switch, you know,
Yep.
your perspective is a whole world of difference. But then the thing is like, it needs to be, it's like a shower. You need to do it every day, and you need to continue to do it every day. Or sooner or later, you're like, my mind feels off. You know what I mean? Like that's where I was at. I'm like, dude, what kind of thought is that? Right. And just
Yeah.
having the awareness of like, I'm not eating well, I'm not sleeping well, I'm out of my routines. I shouldn't take myself too seriously now because this is not me. Also.
Random thought on that, and then I'm excited for today's episode because we got some friends of ours
Yeah.
on. But like,
Oh my God.
people ask me like, what do you spend your time on? Like, what do you actually do? And like, honestly, man, a lot of my time is just thinking, right? And people are like, what does that even mean, right? And it's just honestly just spending a lot of time like thinking about more again conscious thoughts about like, where do I want to go? Where do I want to take the business? And then how do I make sure everybody on the team is in alignment with where we're going and they have super clarity and they have the power to execute on the things that we need to do as a team, as a unit to get there. But the more I become in tune with my thoughts, the more I realize that like they say it in a lot of readings too, like thinking is the hardest work in the world because it takes conscious effort to like really pay attention to what you're thinking about and then change it because it's going to be uncomfortable at first.
Yeah.
And that's where like the real work is to change your life. Like you got to change your thoughts, which changes your self-image, which changes your actions, which changes your results. And it's just this chain reaction. So
I mean, it's constant. That's the other part of it, right? Like there was a thing of like, you know, like I was talking to my therapist the other day, and I'm like, some days I go in there and I'm like, this is a shit show of a session for like a therapy session. Like I am not doing well. She's like, that's what therapy is for. I'm like, no, I know, but there's some days I come in here, I'm like, I'm not doing so bad. And then some days I'm like, holy shit, I should pay you extra. But is the thing about it being like, you are so tired of like this constant effort, but at the same time, the moment you don't, the way you've always been kind of like slowly creeps back in. And so it's like either the pain of who you've always been or the pain of consistently working on who you want to become. But it's still like, no matter where you're going to go, there's going to be some level, share or shape or shadow of some kind of pain.
Yeah.
So shout out to my therapist for taking me on a rough day because that was a shit show. Talking 1,000 words a minute, going through 1,800 conversations of people like, and then this, and then this. And she's like, holy shit. She just was writing a lot, which is never a good sign, you know? But
I always want to see like, are they actually writing stuff down or is it just like a doodle? Just to make you feel better. It's just a big cat drawing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm very excited for our guest today. Today we've got Kyle and Allie Fugatt on the show, and I'm going to read their bio and then I want to bring them up and let them talk about their story because I'm so freaking proud of them and everything that they've done over the last year and a half. Like they're absolutely crushing it. So after 17 years of being together, middle school sweethearts, Kyle and Allie decided to embark on an exciting journey into real estate in 2019. With Kyle's background as an electrical engineer for a large European firm and Allie's experience as a high school science teacher, the couple originally pursued long-term rental investments before taking their business venture in a new direction with STRs in 2021. Fast forward 16 months later, both have retired from their respective careers to pursue investing full-time. Now Kyle and Allie co-host over 15 properties, own a boutique hotel, own a construction holding company, and run a capital raising company for large STR investment properties. This power duo has certainly made strides with each passing year, yet continues making remarkable achievements along the way. And I can personally attest to that. E and I can both personally attest to that because we've watched them go through this whole journey and they've crushed it. So welcome to the show, guys.
Big
So happy to be
Me
here.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're stoked to be here. Too.
Also not in the intro, they're responsible to getting me home safe at least one of the nights in Nashville. So
I think you have
and
one like
feeding me
2%.
and feeding,
on the
and feeding
phone.
me Taco Bell. They fed me Taco Bell at a time that I hadn't eaten Taco Bell in like 11 years, but it was the most glorious. I would compare it to like a Michelin star experience. But
Yeah,
we're just
I wouldn't. No less than
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna just clarify. I'm willing to bet Allie got you home safe. I feel like Kyle
Really?
probably fed into the state that
Really?
she fell into. I'm just
I
gonna
don't
throw that.
I don't recall. I don't recall.
He-
So I
Yeah,
can't
he'll
say.
believe
Mhm.
whatever we tell him.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't
Yes,
But
well-
anyway,
It's not.
I want to hear your kind of origin story of what. So you guys are doing pretty good in the long term rental stuff. You know, you got into that. You're doing fine. What made you? What was the epiphany that you had to get into short term rentals? And then how'd you get your first unit? And just kind of walk us through where you guys are at now over the last 16, 18 months.
Yeah, so I'll take that question because it was kind of me driving that horse. So he was all on Rich Dad Poor Dad. We got into the long-term rentals, and I was like kind of super frustrated when we were looking at how much money we were making. Oh yeah,
We have it upstairs.
we haven't. We
It's
play it
upstairs.
with our kids. Because it is really good, and there's like great takeaways that you can take from it. However, looking at only making, if you make $400 a month off a long-term rental, you're doing pretty good. But I was like, no, like we can't grow rich off this like super fast, and I am tired of teaching. I want to be done. So I fell across y'all's podcast and I listened to it and I started binging it, and I called him because we were in the middle of renovating another long-term rental, and because we were just total burr method at that point for everything. And I was like, hey, so I have this idea. I just listened to this podcast. I want you to listen to it. And we are sitting on a gold mine. We just haven't tapped into it yet. And so he gave me a little bit of extra money off of the home and let me furnish it. And in a very small college town, we were pulling in about $1,200+ a month,
We were grossing about when we look back at it, we were grossing about 25 or 2,700 a month.
and bringing in, profit about $1,200 a month, and which is phenomenal. I mean, that's 3 times the amount we were bringing in off of a regular long-term rental. So from that point is where we grew, and that's actually when, after listening to y'all's podcast, I binged every episode up to that point. I was like, we are going to set up a call and we're joining this group. So flashback till now,
So-
here we are.
It was a little bit more like, this is what I really want to do. And I was like, I haven't seen that like fire in the eye about real estate with her. I was like, let's just freaking do it.
Yeah.
She was like, we're going to say yes and figure it out later. So I just booked a call and I was like, with who? I'm sorry, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So, and then it just kind of rolled from there, and it just was like, let's at least try it. And so we tried it with the very first one, and that's when we joined the group at that time. And it was like, holy crap, this works.
Yeah.
And then from then it just exploded. So we just rode the wave. And if it wasn't for her to be so like pushing on that part, like, this is what I want to do. Because she wanted to quit her job because she wanted to stay home with the second kid. That was the biggest push, I would
Yeah.
say, to start that. Like, we were flipping as well. So I was like, I'll do whatever I have to do for you to stay home. If I need to pick up another side job or whatever, you want to stay home, we'll make it work. And then we kind of stumbled across the STRs, and it worked very, very well.
Yeah.
So-
And just for all you people out there saying that it's not possible, I was 7 months pregnant when we started. And when we got through with this, my son, like with the whole process, my son was like 3 months old going into this. And, from that point, I mean, we did it. We did it with me pregnant. We did it with a newborn. My daughter was 4 years old. So it's totally doable on a
Yeah.
parent schedule.
And then we just took it and ran with it. And here we are.
Yep.
So
Love it. Love it. So you guys bought the first one. And then did you continue buying, or at what point did you switch to co-hosting to scale it up?
So after we joined your mastermind and got our systems in place, at that point, I was like, okay, again, after listening to another podcast, I was like, okay, we could be getting into this with $0. And so he and I kind of talked about it, and I was like, this is how we can scale like pretty fast. And we just need to get our name out there and get the word out there. So it just became like telling everybody what we were doing. Our biggest thing was at that point, we started co-hosting. We made our credibility pack. We started putting it out there. And our actual first lead and our first co-host deal came out of Bigger Pockets. And so he was very active in Bigger Pockets and then just kind of really just searched for short-term rental posts and was just commenting on everything and telling everybody what we were doing and how we could add value to them. And we got several calls off of that, and that's how we landed our first co-host deal. And then from there, so it took us about, I'd say about what,
Well, I would
6
say
months?
I would say the idea at first was like,
Mm.
okay, we'll just buy them all. Like that's pretty much everybody at the beginning was like, we'll just own all of them. And so we got the first one, and then we were like, okay, how much? Like we can refinance out. We do a cash out refinance, and then we'll take that money. We'll buy another one. And I was like, okay, well, this has to season. You have to wait 6 months for you to cash out refi. I was like, this is going to take forever. So we said, well, in between, what if we tried co-hosting? And so that's when our actual first, before the Bigger Pockets, like actual general, like generic co-host deal was an old friend of ours. She was a realtor. And we were like, hey, like we know what we're doing because we're doing it well with this. Like, let us help you because she was struggling really, really bad.
And she had a renovated school bus that
Yeah.
we hosted, and we
I
took it.
remember that.
It
I
was,
remember that.
Yeah,
yeah.
it was really sweet, and we took it from like no bookings, like it's probably less than 10% occupied.
It was like
Um,
one booking every 2 months.
Yeah, and so we took it, and by the time that it with almost a year, we were at 90% occupied by the time
Yeah, his
we
cycle was, it
finished.
was a bus. I think it was grossing like $3,500.
And
Almost
so
like a little bitty school bus. It was sick.
yeah, and so
But we no longer have that. She wanted to do it on her own after a year.
yeah.
Whatever.
But our real first like co-host lead with somebody we didn't know took us about 6 to 8 months to get, and it came off Bigger Pockets. And from that point, we just became the short-term rental people in our Bigger Pockets community that we were a part of, and that's just kind of where it flew from
Yeah.
there.
1 led to 2, 2 led to 4, 4 led to 8, and then it just everybody knew somebody, and then we hooked up with a good realtor, and then we pretty much co-host all of them except because we sold that first one since then. In COVID, we sold it and we syndicated a cabin, and so we own the cabin and we own the hotel that we have now, and we don't own another one. We co-host all the
We
others.
co-host all the others, so we now have 15 co-hosted properties, and me on the boutique hotel.
Yeah, and some more coming on.
Mhm.
So after the
How
hotel
many
launch,
units is the hotel?
So it's 40. It will be 35 when we're done because we're making common spaces. So 35 rentable rooms.
so it'll be like 55 or 60 units total after the hotel launches. About that time, we should have everybody else on. So we've got some owners going through some renovations and closings and stuff like that. They've already signed contracts, so we're ready to go.
Yeah, so we have 7 more co-host deals coming on right now.
So where do you guys spend your time on right now?
So we kind of split the company now, and I do all operations. So I'm a very systems driven person. And so that's what I do is I kind of send the info out to the team. I work on SOPs, and because of course we're still in that growing phase. So we're still trying to nail down the best way to do operations, especially moving into the hotel. And I manage our team. And then so I'm really not in the field anymore at this point. We have a in-house assistant that basically goes and is me now. And then Kyle.
So I just do I'll do new sales. So like landing new leads, talking to people, helping run numbers. So pretty much from the beginning all the way up until they're ready to start seeing the contract, the whole 9 yards. Then I'm like, okay, now I will give you back to Allie or give you to Allie. Allie will send you all this stuff. She'll send you your inventory list, everything you need to buy. Then we'll meet, we'll do a couple of meetings in person. And then I'm pretty much out of it at that point until the end of the month. So all the performas, anything that needs to be fixed maintenance wise, me and a couple of guys, we'll manage that. And then most of my time right now is at the hotel through renovations. So we're like the GC for the whole property. So I have we have a renovation company. So we got 5 or 6 guys that work for me. And so we're always out there. So 3 days a week currently I'm at the hotel, just running renovations. So
And then just recently, we are coaches with Mike. So our other time is spent now working with his team.
yep, yep.
Well,
That's awesome. So was
We
that
hardly
was
send
it
any
always?
text messages anymore,
Yeah.
like ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's a pretty good start. So was it always pretty clear between you guys what the role was gonna be? Was there some slight growing pains at the beginning as to like who does what?
It was perfect at the beginning. Like, no, I'm just kidding. No, it was
No.
a freaking mess.
It was a mess. I think we just kind of naturally fell. I apologize. I thought I turned off. I am not mathematically driven. I was a science teacher, and the joke is if you do science, you don't do math. At least not high level. And so he's electrical engineer background, so he is all numbers driven. So it just naturally fell that like he would handle all of the numbers. And again, just from my background, I'm very good with systems and instructions. And so that's where I fell and I knew I could do really good at. And plus, I mean, it was much easier for him to have a conversation without a 3-month-old than it was for me.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, like when we started, it was like who could get to the phone first to answer the message, right? Like who could message the guest, who could do this? Like, okay, well, did you do this? I don't know. I guess I could do it because you're coming. Like you might fall short on one end. So like at the very beginning, it was like a struggle trying to figure out like who was better at what or who
Mhm.
felt like they could do it better. And so like running numbers at the beginning, like that was already me. Period. Having conversations with anybody about anything about real estate and all that stuff was already me. When it came down to like, hey, we're going to hire a VA, we're going to do this, we're going to set this system up, I was like, I have a lot to go on as well, like renovation side. So Allie was like, well, then I'm better at this than you are. So I'm going to take this over.
right.
I was like, okay, perfect. Like, it's perfect. And then we just kind of slowly fell into like where everybody would fall in. But at the very beginning, it was rough. I mean, driving down the road, like, hey, can you answer this message? And I'm like, well, what do you want me to say?
Well, I think
Like, what's
just
the
like
best way to say this? You know, like,
I think just like anybody that's just getting into this with your first property, like you just want to be super responsive, right? It's just like immediate. You want to
Mhm.
just jump on it immediately and get to it. And so I think it would like kind of come into a common ground of like, okay, like it doesn't have to be immediate. We need to take time to like think through this and like who's going to be doing this from now on because it needs to be a very one person, right? And that's where I stepped in and was like, you just stop, let me do this because I am better at it than you are.
yeah, yeah.
And then
It's
at
funny
what
'cause,
point?
like-
How many? Sorry, go for it.
I was just gonna say, I want you to ask this question, but I was just gonna comment that like hindsight's 2020. Like now that I see you guys in your lanes, I'm like, it makes complete sense what you guys are both doing, and it's like a great alignment for the roles and responsibilities. But like you said at the beginning, that might always. I know even with me and Kristen and the rest of the team, it was like I was pretty much doing everything for a while, and then when she had more bandwidth to help with the team, it was like a little rough at first because it was like this is kind of like my baby and like it was just weird until we found our lane of responsibility and then it was like I trust you over here, like if you need my input fine, but like you got the final say, I don't even need to look at it, like you're good and I'll run point on this thing over here, and then things just get so much smoother when you get to that point.
Yeah, I think that was what was hard for me because coming from a classroom where I'm in control of everything that happens, that's how I was about the business. Like, this is my baby. I'm in control. I set everything and all the parameters. And then, like, trying to ask him to do things, or like when we got the VA, and I'm like trying to give control away, like, because I want to, because I don't want to be doing it. But then it's like, oh, okay. So I'm like, I struggled in the beginning about jumping in for that reason because like I didn't want to give it away. I knew I needed to give it away, but I had a
Well,
little bit of
when you
control.
work so closely together too, like you'll occasionally kind of overstep your own lane anyways. So
Mhm.
like, and it's like, not like you overstep, but they start asking you. Like Allie will ask me about design every once in a while, and I'm like, "Why are you asking me? Because I don't know." Like I'll give my opinion, and she's like, "No." I'm like, then why did you ask me?
Yeah.
Like I'm not
Well,
going to
she
tell
just
you.
needed she just needed to say no to somebody. You know, like sometimes you just need to ask opinion to just know that it's not
Yeah.
the right. Like, you know.
Yeah, she's
That's
like,
right.
which one? I'm like, the one on the left, and she's like, no. I'm like, then
Yeah.
why did you ask me?
Yeah,
Sometimes you
but
just
it's like
like
when you're
no.
asking, like, yeah, like when you're getting dressed, you're like this or this, and like this is like,
Yeah.
no.
Don't
Thank you for
start
helping
with
me
it. Which
make my
shoes should I
decision.
wear? Yeah.
Yeah,
Which shoes look
exactly.
better? I'm
Yeah,
like, I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
She's like, oh, well, I should have never asked you. I'm like, no,
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have.
100%. Yeah. So I guess for the first 6 months was just you guys, right? And then after those first 6 months, when you started getting the co-hosting leads, was the next hire the personal assistant that is on the ground, or was the next hire a VA, part-time, full-time? What did that look like?
Saying this hurts, but I waited way too long, and I admit that to everybody. So we waited until we were, and not for lack of trying, especially for the assistant on the ground. We went through like 3 people before we found the one that I have now. That's my in-house personal assistant and our field. But no, we had 10 co-host deals before I got any help. But it was more of the struggle, like, and everybody has their different, struggles that they're going through. For us, our big goal was getting him out of his job. And it was like, we just had to keep pushing, nose to the grindstone, as many deals as we could to get him out of his job because I had already left mine. And so, yeah, so at 10, I finally was like, we need someone. So we hired a VA through Mike and Mark's program. And thank God for Louie. Everybody needs a Louie. And
You can't be giving her name out.
so no, shout out to Louie because she's what makes everything work. So we got Louie, and then after Louie, we got our in-house assistant Brittany, and then we hired we were at 12 units.
I don't.
12 or
I mean,
13.
we went through such a crazy growth stage. So like we would have, and one reason I say would play into like another reason that took so long is, let's say like you're in this weird growth, you only have like technically like 4, 5, 6 units, but then we have 5 contracts signed. You've got them like kind of peppering in, and when they're launching, you've got all this stuff going on, but you're not making any money yet because you don't get paid. You're not getting paid until say a month later. And so like, we're like, well, we technically like, and I'm looking at numbers. I'm like, we can't afford, hiring a VA and doing this. Like, we need to do this literally as long as we possibly can until the money starts coming in to afford the help. And so it's just like, when we were flipping houses, like I was working 7 days a week. And I was like, I can't afford to pay all these big crews to come in here. Like, we need to learn this stuff and I can teach other guys as we go. And so, but at some point, it was like, we didn't focus on hiring a VA. Like, we had the conversation. I was like, okay, well, I think one thing that plays into this is like, we can't afford one. And because you got to keep that business separate, like instead of coming out of personal finances, or whatever, we need to let that business build to sustain it. And then the conversation went away and we're struggling, like meeting with clients, like 3 or 4 clients a weekend, trying to get it all figured out, driving from work up there to meet somebody. Like, it was crazy.
But yeah, so like I think at like 13 is when we got our second VA. And so now we're at 15. Our third VA starts on the 17th, and the past 2.5, 3 weeks has been our first 24-hour coverage. So
the biggest push for VA3 is for the hotel.
Yeah.
So they can come on a little early, they can learn and onboard completely, and then they can start building stuff with the hotel. Yep.
Yeah.
And you might need one more.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know.
One for the phone, you know what I mean? Eventually.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. The phones are going to be different. Yeah.
Yes. Because he knows this and I know this. Like, I looked at the numbers in preparation for Nashville and for some of these keynotes I've given around the hotels. Each of our hotels has anywhere from 500 to 800 inbound phone calls per month per hotel. Because people are just they go to Google and they search hotels in whatever. And then they click call and they pick up the phone and they call, right? So you get a ton of phone calls. We don't really get that on the STR side. And that was one of the big slaps in the face that I got when I got into it. Was like, wow, I did not expect this many phone calls when we got into this.
And that's what I'm already.
As an introvert, he's like, why do people want to call? Mike is like, I don't understand this shit.
Nobody wants to talk.
There is emails, there is text messages. Mike is like, why are people calling me? Like, I don't understand. But people are like, especially if you're in our market or your market, like in the South, especially, I feel like people just love to talk on the
I
phone.
mean,
They're like,
that's
what
Yeah.
y'all doing
that's
over there? Like, what's this new
that's
thing?
it.
Like
How's the weather
thing I
today?
know.
What
Yeah,
should I be
yeah,
careful of?
I
Yeah.
know exactly. Yeah, I know this thing. What should I pack this? I'm like, bro, I don't fucking know what you should pack. Like, like
Yeah.
what do you want from me? Like,
Yeah.
I'm bringing
Exactly.
everything in
Somebody's
hangers. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
you know,
somebody somewhere changed like an old owner on their website somewhere. I can't find it. Put my phone number down. And so like yesterday, I'm at the hotel and I get a phone call from some crazy number, and I'm like, "Hello, this is Kyle." And she's like, "Y'all gonna be open in 2 months?" And I'm like, "You're talking about the hotel, right? 'Cause we run a lot of different properties. Like, I imagine
Yeah.
you're talking about the hotel." And she's like, "Yeah, you gonna be open?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Where's my freaking number? Because I can't find it. I've searched for it, I don't know, 20
yeah,
times. And I
why
cannot
do you
find it."
have my number? Yeah,
Yes.
that's
How
funny.
did you get
Yes.
it? But yeah, that's my whole. He doesn't know it yet, but that's already in the works. So fourth VA's already been sourced.
Oh
Conversations
my
have
God.
already been had. So
When did I
Allie's
Let's
got
start
my
doing it?
style. We just do it and then we just drop a bomb and then apologize
Yeah,
and go get dinner and
yeah,
make
yeah,
up later.
yeah.
I don't get that part
Ask,
either. I don't get that part.
ask for
You're like, "Hey,
forgiveness.
I
Yeah,
shouldn't have to apologize for making our business run a lot smoother because it's taken more
yes,
off of me. So
yeah. No, but that's all fair. And I love the dynamic, and I love something that Kyle said. Is just like I wanted the business to sustain itself by itself. And so there's always that catch-22 there of like, I always have a feeling that if you have the capability to invest in your business and you are ready to burn the boat, that is the best investment of your money. Because then if you can create the runway that you need to build a business, that's why all these big companies like do seed rounds, right? Because like seed rounds gives you the oxygen that you need to fucking light shit up.
Yeah.
Also, there is the reality of like, if your goal is to get out of a job and to retire two people, that is not a possibility, right? So it's just like, how do you balance those two things? And the clients had, so the contracts had, and the money coming in, that is one of those like kind of variables that is very hard to tell. Because sometimes you're like, I signed 5 clients, and then you're like, I signed them 6 months ago. We still haven't launched because the city, the thing, da, 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 da. So if you start hiring on just the first green flag, so you have to almost create a way of like, when does a client actually start making us money? Because also like we charge a setup fee, but the setup fee, when you look at it in the great scheme of things, ain't no money and doesn't go anywhere. And you burn through it the first couple of weeks. Then you're like, well, now what? Right? So it's understanding that balance. So what are some of the lessons that you've learned from taking down this hotel that could be useful for
On
the
the
people?
hotel.
Yes.
you don't
Because
know what
I
you don't
think
know.
that's, yeah, but I think a lot of people like due to like the overall where the market is at and just all the work that Mike has been doing are listening to this and be like, awesome, I want to get there. I don't want to fucking
Mhm.
co-host things anymore. If I do co-host it just for the economy scale of what co-hosting can do for you, I want the hotel. So how
Mhm.
did you find it? What did you learn about it?
I would say for the hotel, because I'm right now
Tell about how we found it first.
how we found
Yes.
it. Great realtor, first of all.
Mhm.
Like I used to when we started, we hooked up with a good realtor. That relationship kind of went down the drain after a couple of years. But I've always been a sole believer, like if you're gonna build in real estate, you need to have somebody looking out for you that's looking for
Mhm.
deals, that's constantly seeing deals. Like I'm big on that off market stuff, that's great, whatever, but you're limited to what you produce with relationships or whatever. So that's how we found it. It was just over the line in Tennessee, like 5 minutes over the line, just past our market. So it's only 15 minutes from downtown Blue Ridge, and we're in Blue Ridge. And so 15, 20 minutes. It came on the market. Nobody was really seeing it, especially in Georgia. She reached out to a couple of brokers just over the line, and he was like, "Yeah, I've got one for sale, actually." That's how we found it. We started running the numbers, realized it's a freaking slamming deal. Like,
And I wanna interject too, like our realtor, we also co-host her cabin. So like she has like we have credibility through her. Then when we started talking to her about like our vision of what we wanted for a boutique hotel, that was what we put the feelers out there for. And then she was able to put the feelers out there for us.
yeah. So like talking about what you want and telling people what you want, and then they start talking because like it's about what they can get out of it too, right? Like people aren't just going to be like, "Oh, I'll do this for free." Like, but if she closes $1 million hotel, then or somebody that's looking for you, they're going to get paid for it, like regardless. So
Mhm.
that is incentive for them to look for you. Um,
Yeah, but we got it. We got it for how much?
yeah. Do you want to know all the details on it? Because maybe I missed that first.
Whatever you guys are comfortable sharing. To me, it's more of a
I'll
like
share. I mean, I'm an open book. So
the understanding of what's possible and how it works, and then the reality of like what the fuck
how
does
to
it
do it.
take once you have once you
Okay.
have it. Because again, like is the same thing. It's easy to buy a house.
Yeah.
And then you go in there and you're like, oh, I've watched a lot of HGTV shows, and then you're like, I'm gonna do my first flip, and then you start doing shit. And you're
Yeah.
like,
And you're like, oh my God,
We're-
this is not.
yes.
Yeah, first of
So
all, we're not
that's what I
Chip and
want.
Joanna Gaines. Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
Chip and Joanna Gaines. First of all, we never have been. There's
I don't know.
not
We had some roles at one point. That was kind of
There-
like I built it. She said what she wanted. We would build it, and she would
But-
design it, and that was it. And then
so
we
it's
moved on.
not all sunshine and rainbows. So when we got the deal, it is a slamming deal, but we really thought we were going to be able to go in and kind of flip this just as fast as we flipped houses. We were in and out of houses 6 to 8 weeks, if we could, and we kind of thought we were going to be able to do this at the hotel, and man, were we surprised. So if you're getting into this, know that take a single family house and like times 10,
Yeah.
times 35, because there's a lot that goes into it, and I think there was just a lot more that went into it than we were expecting in the beginning, but it is exciting and it's a little scary. But for those of you out there like trying, like this may be the next step, do your due diligence, like because one of the things we found was like that coming from the commercial side, we've come through a lot of deals, but it was a lot of things that you don't know until you're there, and you don't know what you don't know, right? And you don't know until you talk to people there, and you don't know until you're in it and you're digging up pipes and you're busting out walls and everything. And so make sure you have those conversations and do all that due diligence. But what would you say?
So I was just going to kind of go through what he was talking about. So like when we bought it, when we like figured out what we wanted in the market that we wanted it, it was for sale, and I come from like a multifamily side too, like learning how to syndicate and raise money. So
Mhm.
it was for sale for $1 million, and we bought it for $1 million, and we started the raise. And so getting out there building your kind of your face or whatever, like we don't have millions of dollars sitting in an account somewhere. So like we're gonna have to raise equity partners, right? So so going through the syndication style, especially because we syndicated a cabin last year, and then we raised money on 2 other flip houses recently since then, and then rolling into this and syndicating in the hotel. So coming up with a budget, underwriting to make sure it works. So like we took a calculator from a multifamily, like for an apartment syndication. I took it and I just changed it to form what I needed it to form to run the numbers for like the occupancy and the daily rate and all that stuff. And figured out, okay, like, are you going to charge a cleaning fee? Are you not? Are you going to build the cleaning fee into the nightly rate? What is a realistic occupancy for a hotel here? What kind of amenities do you need to add? Forming all your budget. And we've all sat in a call together about, is your budget too low? And I think at the time it was. I don't know if you remember that, but at the time it was. So we upped the budget.
Oh, I
it
told you
really
that
came out.
immediately.
Yeah. Was it 600?
Chatted.
Was it 600,000? Was it something
No,
stupid
it
like
was
that?
200.
No, it was like 350 or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
our
Okay.
budget-
Yeah. It was
yeah,
something stupid. Yeah. I remember.
So we
Yeah.
upped it and went to 800 for the 35 rooms, and we do a lot of work internally. So there's some
That
things
makes
that
a
we
big
can really
difference.
save on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but being more realistic with like, what are you really going to do here versus just paint, flooring, and a toilet, or whatever.
Because like if you're getting into this, like a boutique hotel and a hotel are completely different. It's about creating an experience for the boutique hotel, and so that's a big difference. And you have to make sure you budget for that too.
Yeah, but like budgeting right for furnishings, for instance, like you want the nice vanities, and there's something we go back and forth with. Is like I budgeted just to put shaker cabinets in for vanity, and she's like, "No, this vanity costs $1,400 a piece," and I'm like, where the hell is that vanity coming from? Because my flat packs that come in, we can get this for $300. She's like, no, this isn't going to work. So going back through all that and then saying, okay, what's the budget for the full thing realistically with your contingency, all that stuff, and coming up with a syndication, like the model, how much equity you're going to give away, all that stuff, kind of taking it from that and going and saying, okay, like we're going to start here, we're going to start here, having that game plan before you ever just say, hey, I'm just going to buy a hotel. Like if you're going to raise money, which most people do, or bring an equity partner in some sort, like you got to know what your exit strategy is going to be. How long are you going to hold this thing? Like if you buy it for 10% under market and it's already done and you're going to raise money, like there's no exit there. Like push your numbers, but that's really all you can do because it's already turnkey. So I see some people kind of rolling into that. And I think in some of the groups we've had conversations with people that wanted to buy something turnkey, like on the beach or whatever. They're like, yeah, I'm just going to syndicate it, but there's no exit there. So you're like, okay, we're in a 15-year hold and nobody's going to get the money back. So we're running into that, like you want to kill the deal before you ever raise money or sign a contract. And if you can't kill the deal, then you obviously have a great deal. So I would say going from that, but since we've closed on it, and we kind of take the approach of like, we don't take no as an answer. So like do whatever you have to do to get a deal closed or to get something to happen. You just keep going and going and going and going and don't stop. Since we closed it, because like we had a hiccup when we closed it, for instance. So like we were raising money and we had some investors saying like, hey, I've got money, like I'm committed, but my money's not coming out of this other short-term deal until this time, or I'm not going to be able to wire until Q2 or whatever. And I'm like, well, shit, this is a really bad time to be raising money. And January 6th, we have a close date. Like this is really bad around Christmas. That's like some of the hardest time to raise money. So reaching out to a big investor, really, really good friend of mine. I was like, hey, I need $300,000 bridge loan. Like she is an equity partner, but I was like, I need a bridge loan. Can you do it? She's like, got you. Like 3-month loan or whatever we did. Like we closed it. And it was down to the nail, but we closed it. We got it done. So then all those equity partners start wiring money, pay everything back, fill that equity position completely. And then we started renovation raise. So, and as that money comes in, there's, stuff on the back end where like, you can't just go out and spend $300,000 on furnishings if you don't have the money yet. So like, as the renovation raise goes up, then you can pull in, and we've got some cash that we're putting in the deal too. So we can kind of expedite some stuff, but just learning what you don't know what you don't know, like Allie said. And so like coming into it in the washer room facilities or the gym that you want to add, like what all does it cost? What ways can you do it? What about your laundry rooms? Like that's stuff that not a lot of people can answer. Like those are questions that nobody's really done, and we're just all learning as we go. So that's big on that.
Property specific too.
Yeah,
Which is the hardest
and you
thing.
just have
Like,
to.
that's the same thing that Mike is going through right now. It's just like everything is like some of the big kind of boxes fit. But then, especially when you start adding common spaces, common areas, they're going to be sub-property specific. And then once you start opening up shit, you're like,
Yep.
technically,
Yeah,
I need to
it's
dig
looking
out
to
this entire trench to do it right and
Yeah.
fix it right because there was never that
I
properly,
saw that video.
you know?
So
Yeah.
that is that's a whole nother topic. So like, okay, we're out there, right? So we manage a lot of the renovations. Our guys are doing a lot of stuff. And it's all like, well, 3 years ago this happened, and 2 years ago this happened. And so you start believing everything you hear from the people that know the property, whatever. And we were led to believe there was no pressure regulating valve on the whole hotel, that there was 175 PSI at the main and all this stuff. And so we dug it out and we're like, okay, we're about to fix this. We get down there and there is a brand new PRV valve sitting in the ground. And I'm like, okay. But in checking that, we broke it at the main valve and then we flooded the whole street and everything. So like all this stuff is like learning as you go kind of thing, but we have the knowledge, we have the material and the equipment to fix it. So we did, but that was, those are you don't know what you don't know until you get in there. So doing your own due diligence and making sure you hit every point in due diligence, sticking to your budgets. Like you could spend as much money as you want on a single family renovation or a hotel. Like you can spend as much money as you want, but you have to stick to your budget, period. Like there's no question. So if you're over budget somewhere else, you need to figure out how to cut budget.
And be an avatar specific. Like make sure you know who you're serving and you're going to meet the needs of those people that you're supposed to be serving.
Mhm. Love that.
That- that's- I hope that answers your question.
It does.
No,
And I
that
think
was-
it gives
that
a
was
lot
great.
of, yeah, and it gives a lot of perspective on a very actionable kind of level to the people. They're like, again, like there is the reality behind the glamour. And this is
Mhm.
Yeah.
what that looks like, right? It's just like everything feels very glamorous when you're not seeing it. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
people doing hotels. And the thing is, this is the same thing that happened a couple years ago with apartment syndications. On some of those people, only time will tell. Only time will tell how well you were underwriting it. Only time will tell how well you're running it. And then if you haven't been doing it properly, the shit show that comes afterwards, it's very, very spectacular, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same
Yeah, I know
time,
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So like now it's one of those moments that we keep telling you guys in the boardroom, but in general to everybody, this is not the time where you go and hunt for deals that don't make sense. This is the time that
Mhm.
you really aggressively underwrite things, and you gotta know your bounds, and you just gotta offer to that bound, and then you gotta be okay with letting shit walk. Because if it doesn't
Yep.
line up now, that landscaping over the next couple of years, it's gonna be very difficult. And then that one deal decides that goes badly can ruin a
Yeah.
lot of years of very, very hard work, especially if you didn't do it right, you didn't syndicate it right, you didn't have the right attorneys writing the right agreements. So everything needs to be done to the most level that you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree because like I would like on both ends of that, like a lot of the co-hosting properties we have were owners that
Mhm.
bought during COVID and they weren't educated properly. They didn't have somebody to run numbers for them. So they got bad deals. And then they're coming to us saying, like, because
I
we
need
weren't
help.
managing at the time, managing their property for them. Then they're coming to us because we were recommending, they're like, save me, help me. What do I do? And then, same thing with the hotel. Like, and don't just go and get something just because you absolutely want a hotel and you want to do it right now. Like sometimes it's just worth the wait because we went through multiple deals that just got shot down, turned away before we got this one. So just wait, like it will come. And like if you sometimes you just have to like leave shit alone for shit to come to you and then like the right deal comes to you, right?
Yeah. Well, I do
Mhm.
just quickly about like the syndication stuff. So we went through probably, I don't know, a handful of months, probably a good 4 to 6 months of like about the same time that we launched our first STR is we were like, okay, we're going to put a war chest of money from flips. Like we wanted to put like $100,000 in the bank and we wanted to go buy an apartment complex. That was like what I personally wanted to do on the side of like building short-term rentals. So we were looking, we probably had like between 14, 16, 18 LOIs sent out. Lost deals by like 100 grand, uh, lost them by cash, whatever. Like we were stupid low on some price because our underwriting was really strict, trying to get in that buy box. But with COVID and the lower interest rates and all that stuff, like people were just dumping money. So we lost a ton of deals that were bad deals. Like I wouldn't buy it at what they wanted, right? So after a while, I was like, man, this sucks. Like, how long is it going to take to get a deal like this? But on the other side, we're building this STR company and like the income based off that. And so I had this like shiny object syndrome on the other side of the fence of like, oh my God, I can syndicate this apartment and make $95,000 off the syndication and all that stuff. And I'm like, wait. We can't even get that deal because everybody's overpaying across the board and nobody will even entertain our stuff. But we have this gold mine that we're building on the side. So why am I focused across the fence at this other shiny object syndrome and build what the hell we know what we're doing like now and
Mhm.
build it to something that can't be broken and just focus here. And that's when
Mhm.
Allie was like, why don't you just syndicate a short-term rental? Like, you know how to raise money and syndicate. Why don't you just bring them together? So that's what we did. And I was like, well, this works. This is a lot more of my cup of tea here. So I would say like that focusing on what you can focus on and like the apartment syndication and stuff, like I've seen a lot of people get in a lot of trouble already.
Mhm.
Like selling
Mhm.
equity shares out to another LP. They bought all the equity shares on thinking it was a great deal and stuff's not making it's not making any money whatsoever. It's burning cash. So I've seen people get in trouble and there's a lot more to come. And it's just because people wanted to buy whatever they could buy. So
That's we're running a little long, so I want to wrap it up. But just case in point as well. That's why it's so important. And this isn't a plug for us or anybody, but it's like you want to have mentors and peers around you that have executed on the things that you're trying to do, so that they can help you avoid Yes, they can help you make more money, but honestly, it's also just as important, if not more important, to help you avoid losing money, especially if you're raising money. Rule number one,
They call you out on
never,
your shit.
ever lose money out for somebody, ever.
Mhm.
Like if you do, you're done.
Especially if this is what you're gonna do. Especially if this is what you do for a living, right? Like if this is who you say you're gonna be for a living, like you're gonna be an operator, a boutique hotel owner, an investor. Don't fucking lose people's money. Because then that's one way to just not do it. So proud of you guys. It's been such a pleasure to have you on. And like I have a million other questions, but we don't have any time. But yeah, again, super proud of the hustle and just who you guys are as actual people, because that's also something else that like I've come to really enjoy about you guys. Not just your hustle part, but just the goodness of who you guys are as people. So
Thank you.
You know how I feel about you guys, but just to reiterate it,
We love y'all too.
We love you.
So the last well, before we get into the last question, I want you guys to plug, like, where can folks learn more about you guys? I know you got a meetup coming up next month in Atlanta, so like let's get all the plugs out there where people can find you and check in with all the cool stuff you guys got going on.
Yeah, so for myself, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, for my personal page of She Hosts Blue Ridge. So she_hosts Blue Ridge. And I also run a woman's real estate investing and wealth building Facebook page called She Invests. And also our Cherokee Rose Homes on Facebook and Instagram for our business accounts and our properties that we run.
Yep. And then you can find me at Facebook and Instagram as well. I need to get better about my Instagram, but more on Facebook, trying to move over, is the STR Syndicator on both. And then I also have a small group, public group that's STRs and boutique hotels, raising money and underwriting. So, or syndications and raising money. So just look that up and you can join that. And then, yes, our meetup is in Atlanta. We're going to start doing it once a month. May 6th this month.
And it's called the Strategic Investor.
Yep. So it's us two and another real good friend who're putting it on. So sign up. Don't just show up. You have to sign up.
You
then
guys
can come.
You guys can find on our Facebook page the link to sign up if you want to come. If you're in the Atlanta area, it'll be May 6th. And we're super excited about it. Shout out to Brian Hatcher for helping us put that on.
Yep. So
We'll
And
get the
SDR
links down in
Secret.
the show notes.
yeah.
100%. So the last question that we ask all of our guests is, what is your number one secret to success with short-term rentals?
You go ahead. You go first.
So mine is always stay a student. We never would have got where we are without continually learning, and everything is ever changing. So if you don't constantly stay a student, there's no way for you to stay ahead of the game. So
Love that.
I would say to like find your tribe, like get in the rooms, get in the groups, find the right people that you want to build with, and just add value as much as you can. Always be learning, like what she said, but just keep adding value. Period. No matter what it is. Like if you don't know something, that's fine, but you can be the boots on the ground somewhere and just join and just learn. So if you can do that, then that'll teach you more than any school will teach you.
Love it. Love it. Well, Kyle and Allie, super proud of you guys. Super pumped to have you guys on the team now as coaches as well. And thank you for coming on the show.
yes.
Yes.
Thank you guys for having us.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Hey, STR Nation, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. And in the comments, let us know what topics you want us to cover on upcoming episodes, and we'll make sure to get that in the books for you. And if you really want to learn how to launch, automate, and scale your short-term rental business, if you want to go deeper, then check out our free masterclass at strsecrets.com.